Hello, you're very welcome to this latest edition of the NFL show here on the Under Center podcast. Dara, your host, is always joined to my. How are we looking at this? Right? My right? Your left? Al McGrath?
I think it's left.
To my
I
left?
think, oh, right. Sorry.
Your right?
Left.
We'll see how it goes. Reen Malloy. These
There's one of us on either side,
help,
so
you know?
yeah, you're going to be right either way.
Yeah. Either side of me, I got a Reen and I got an Al. You can decide which one it wants to be. Lads, how are we doing?
Good, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretending after about 5 o'clock on Sunday just didn't happen. So, yeah, living the life of a delusional Panthers fan.
Oh, we'll get into that for sure. But,
It was all a bad
outside of
dream.
yeah, it's still a dream. He hasn't woken up yet. Outside of that, though, you know, obviously we're going into the big event in a little bit, but Reen taking his first steps as a verified sort of NFL reporter, going to Vikings practice at last week. How'd you find it?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, we didn't get to see a whole lot of training. We kind of just got to see a little bit of stretching and then a little bit of warm-ups from the QBs. But look, the press conference was just unprecedented access. We had Coach O'Connell, got to ask him a question. We had Isaiah Rodgers. We had Carson Wentz. We had Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson. So, yeah, all the big names were there, and we were really given an opportunity to just kind of ask what we wanted to, and it was great. It was great.
Excellent. And how was the turnout at it?
I heard that the turnout at the Steelers was very high. It wasn't as greatly attended at the Vikings, but that kind of gave us more of an opportunity to get involved in the questions and stuff like that. I brought my wife Lorraine along as a videographer, and she even got to ask Justin Jefferson a question, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about the Steelers one, because when Aaron Rodgers came to the podium, you couldn't get a question in. Everybody was bumping, trying to ask various different questions on various different topics, going from how does he feel being in Ireland, how does he feel the team's performing, all the way to, you know, what does he think of Rory McIlroy and the Ryder Cup? And this was all before all the shite went on on Saturday and Sunday as well. So, you know, he was still obviously very pleasing about his chat with Rory. Also, the person asked the question conveniently forgot that the person who's actually from the Republic of Ireland, Shane Lowry, didn't get a mention in that. But look, listen, c'est la vie. Yeah, and look, it was a sort of surreal experience because we spent the guts of this is year 4 now, is it? Year 3, year 4, talking NFL. We talk about these, you know, you could say at times mythical figures because, you know, you're never really in their presence. You're always just sort of talking about them, and, you know, we don't know if they're real because we've never seen them in real life. And then you suddenly go to, you know, a Vikings practice, you go to a Steelers practice, and these guys are just there in front of you asking questions, and you just kind of, I guess you can be kind of like awestruck at a certain point. I think for me anyway, it was certainly, because especially with Mike Tomlin was first to come up, and you're kind of just like his presence alone, you know, he's such a you know, a well-known character around the league, obviously one of the best head coaches in NFL history, and his record speaks for itself. And he's kind of just there, standing there waiting for questions as if it's, you know, a regular thing. Obviously it is to him, but like for us, being the first time we're ever reporting on an actual NFL game, we're kind of like, yeah, man, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was the same with us when Justin Jefferson walked in the room. Like, kind of, you could see everybody just kind of lean forward as if to just get closer to him, and like he came out with massive diamond chains on. I want to know what they're worth, but yeah, he was great, and so were the other guys. They were all like, so some of the questions that were being asked were obviously from Irish journalists who don't know a huge amount about the sport, but they were very gracious and answered every question as if it was a legitimate and very thought out question. So yeah, it was great in that respect.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's the way it is. And Especially on the Vikings side of things. They're going to London this week. I'm sure they're going to get a lot of more English, London-based questions and you know what they think and of this and that. And but yeah, just a surreal experience. Getting to do the tour the day before actually of Crow Park and to see how, this was more on the NFL health and safety side of things with their independent doctors and everything like that and how they set up and like just the level of detail that goes into that sort of part where like they have to have communication about potential injuries on the field. It's just such a high level that the amount of attention to detail that they bring to just a regular, like it's a regular season game. This isn't a Super Bowl. This isn't a playoff. This is just a regular season game in the calendar, and it's just amazing to see. And the effort that they put into getting the stadium ready, the effort that the GAA put into getting the field ready to the specifics that the Steelers are going to like, because we've heard about, fields in Europe that maybe American teams don't really get accustomed to and don't like too much because it's goes away from their point of view, whether it is, a turf field, whether it is the 3G pitches and stuff. Obviously, it was just 100%. I think it was a hybrid that the GA brought in just specifically for this game as well. So, just the level, it's just amazing the level of detail that they put in. And then, of course, the game itself. Ray, you were there. I didn't see anything from you. Were you at the game on Sunday?
No, couldn't make it this year.
No.
Real shame.
Okay.
I've just too busy, but yeah, it looked fun.
Fine. Did you watch it?
I did, yes.
Virgin. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you make of Virgin's presentation?
It was all right. I didn't watch the whole thing. Like, I was kind of throwing an eye on it as I was watching it. But it was fine. I thought it was good enough.
I think it's tough for them, right? Because we don't have the kind of personalities here in Ireland that talk about this stuff on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Michael from the PFI. Well, yeah. We could have had a greater representation of understanding podcasters, but I'm talking about like presenters and hosts.
There's like, speak for yourself.
Yeah. It's difficult to get somebody in who knows the game and is capable of talking the way you would expect to see that kind of polished and crystal clear kind of image. Yeah. So I respect Virgin Media for certainly trying their best at it.
Yeah, and look, and all respect to Michael McQuaid, obviously from PF Ireland, who was part of the crew on that, and he is someone that obviously eats, sleeps, breathes American football. He's done a fantastic job in sort of organizing events around the game this weekend, and obviously doing what he did on Virgin. I obviously, being at the game, I didn't see a whole lot, but it's tough for Virgin Media, I'd imagine, because my guess is, especially because I think they had F.A. Obada there as well, so obviously an ex-NFL player, and you're kind of trying to strike this balance where you're kind of trying to be insightful with your analysis of the game, but also saying it in a way that not dumbs it down, but dilutes it down so that the casual viewer that's going to turn in on Sunday doesn't get absolutely lost in the jargon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, my father-in-law was watching the game on Sunday, and that's the first NFL game he's ever watched in his life. And I think that the broadcast kind of helped a little bit in terms of making it accessible to him. It was also quite nice that he had my wife sitting there next to him, so she was able to explain a few things about the game to him. But the broadcast helped a lot.
Yeah, and even some of the American broadcasts get lost in the jargon. I mean, sometimes you're trying to follow it, and like, we'll know plenty of it, but then they'll say something, and I'm just totally lost because it's their own jargon that they're using. There's so many different terminologies for the same thing. So it was good. Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah, it's that player in them that normally who the color commentator is the ex-player that kind of gets into the real nitty gritty of like that. If you're only if you're a player in the league, you'd understand what he's talking about. Sense of things, absolutely. But look, the game itself we'll have to talk about as well. Of course, the Steelers coming out 24-21 winners. At one stage, especially in the press box, we were kind of maybe all hoping that the Vikings would go up the other end and hit a field goal because we didn't want the game to end. It was that entertaining and it was that exciting. Because you look at it and the first play of the game is a sack on Aaron Rodgers, and you think, right, because with the previous issues that the Steelers have had offensively, you're thinking, is this going to be another day where they sort of struggle to move the ball, and especially with their starting running back Jalen Warren being inactive for the game with injury too, and you're kind of hoping that maybe things can turn around, and that's exactly what they do. They go up with 2 touchdowns in the first half, one from Kenneth Gainwell on the ground, who was in for the injured Jalen Warren, and then an 80-yard run from DK Metcalf to score in the corner. I don't know about you, but like we hear about DK Metcalf a lot in terms of his speed, but until you see it in person, you're kind of just like, wow. Ryan, are you the same?
Yeah, 100%. And the sheer size of the man as well. Like, when you're looking at an angle from up the top, it gets a bit diluted. Everybody kind of looks a little bit similar on the field. But me and Fume were right down at kind of nearly pitch level at the hill. And Jesus Christ, he is a big dude. And for him to be able to just explode the way he does is just unbelievable.
Yes, absolutely. On the other hand, though, the Vikings were the team that were struggling to move the ball, especially after their successful first outing with Carson Wentz against the Bengals the previous week. Is sort of the offense sort of spluttered. Some good runs here and there with Jordan Mason, especially. He tried to get Justin Jefferson in the game from the very beginning, which he did, and I think he was a constant target. But I'll jump to you there on this one. Again, are you owing the offensive performance from the Vikings, especially in that first half, more to maybe the defensive game plan that the Steelers came up with, or maybe just possibly maybe the aura or the shine had come off sort of Carson Wentz coming back into a starting lineup?
I think it's all down to the defense. I mean, the offensive line were definitely suffering. What's his name? Kelly went out early, their offensive lineman. And I mean, the Steelers brought the game plan in, just kill them, blitz them constantly, keep the pressure on, and it worked. It worked for almost the whole game. Wentz was under constant pressure. Now, he didn't do terribly. He threw for over 300 yards, I think it was. Now, a couple of picks in there, but they did all right considering, but they just, that amount of pressure with injuries on the offensive line, I don't think they've had their full, excuse me, I don't think they've had their full unit out there at all this year. So I think just the pressure they had, they didn't have a chance on offense, really.
No, that's fair. And like that, the defensive injuries were stark on the Steelers side, and they obviously got worse during the game with Jalen Ramsey having to go in and out with a hamstring injury during the game too. So what was it, 14-6 at the half. Another touchdown by Gainwell and a field goal obviously got to 24-6 at one point, and we all sort of thought going into that fourth quarter that was it. But the Vikings come back with a touchdown drive to get it back to 24-14, and then the big play of the game, which a deciding play probably because of the actions of the Steelers defense. Of course, it was the blown coverage play which resulted in Jordan Addison getting it down to the 2-yard line. But the fact that Peyton Wilson was able to catch up with him and stop him from running in the touchdown, because that forced the Vikings to use up more of that precious clock to score their touchdown, because I think it was 4th and goal by the time they actually scored the touchdown. So time was definitely against them in that sense. But, I'm sure we all thought, Rain, at that point, that once Jordan Addison caught that and was gone, there was no catching him.
Yeah, it was a really, really impressive chase down. I saw somewhere that he reached like 22.5 miles an hour on that chase down. And Jordan Addison is no slouch. So it was a really, really impressive play and may have won the Steelers the game. Now, there was a lot of pressure on that last drive after they got the ball back. So it's to be seen whether or not they would have actually been able to move that ball downfield into field goal territory. But yeah, look, that was a play that really, really needed to be made, and credit to him for making it.
Yeah. And the Steelers then hold out in the end with a 4th down stop to get the win. Lads, overall, your thoughts on the whole experience of Dublin, the week leading up to it, the game and stuff like that. The Steelers, especially Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, who were available for press conferences afterwards, definitely waxed lyrical about Dublin and says that they've done enough to get a game again next year. Your thoughts on how the week has gone and everything like that, and are you in agreement that maybe the NFL, I think Roger Goodell said on the Saturday as well that it'll definitely be back too, so all signs are in the positive, but I think that maybe our Dublin has done enough to be one of those regular returning games now for the NFL in the future?
I certainly hope so. I've been to a couple of games myself, one in New York. Now, that was very poorly attended, and then one in London as well. But Croke Park was by far the best atmosphere I've experienced at any American football game in my entire life. So I've been to a few of the college games as well. It was by far the best atmosphere I've experienced. When they played Zombie, that was unbelievable. When they played Oh Mama, that was incredible. The amount of Steelers support that was over here. So yeah, I think Ireland has done enough. It went off without a hitch. There was no big issues with it outside of Skylar Thompson being mugged in Dublin, which is not a great look for us. But look, that could have happened anywhere in the world. So yeah, hopefully we get back on the cards for the coming years, because it was an unbelievable experience, regardless of the cost. Yeah, look, I can't wait for it to come back again.
Yeah, you just basically you made my point for me. Yeah, I mean, it was great. I wasn't there to see it, unfortunately, but I saw a lot of articles after, some posts, people online. They just said the atmosphere was amazing. They loved the sing-alongs. A lot of people love our national anthem now, which is is good.
Can we talk about that for a second? That's probably the best rendition I've ever heard at any sporting event.
It was really good. It was really good.
Excellent. Goosebumps the entire time.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. But everyone loved it, and look, they made tons of money. That's number one. It's sold out in a couple of days or something in general sales. They'll be back. NFL loves money more than anything. So yeah, it was great, and I hope it's a better game. Maybe hope Seahawks come next year.
You and me both on that one. Now, it was interesting, right? Because the teams obviously had their own pubs for the week, and they should I say, I'm just having a quick look at something here before I mention it. which is a big fat no. Okay. So obviously Fitzsimons was the Steelers, which we went to on Saturday. Atmosphere was cracking in there. We actually walked in as they were playing Renegade, which was class because everyone just went mad when that came on. Of course, that's one of the Steelers' home songs by Styx. Although not too impressed with the price of a pint, but it is Temple Bar. I should have known better.
Yeah.
J.R. Matins was the Vikings bar again, packed, couldn't move in the place. Little less atmosphere in terms of lack of music playing and stuff like that. Not sure why. Maybe it was just the time we went in at. It was just a bit of a lull. But the Packers and the Chiefs had also their own designated pubs for the weekend. So the Packers were in Sinnets on Saturday, and the Chiefs were in Murray's on O'Connell Street. So it could be a little bit of a hint about who is coming back next year if they do play it. I had a quick look. That's what I was looking at before I started speaking about this. I had a quick look at the potential 2026 opponents for the Green Bay Packers. And they're not down to face the Chiefs. So I was hoping maybe for a Chiefs-Packers game could be that one. But the way the schedules are next year, the NFC teams have the extra home game. So kind of leads in the Packers' direction a little bit at the moment that they could be the team who they could face. They're due to face the AFC East, so you're looking at maybe the Bills. They're also due to face the NFC South, so you might have to deal with the Saints. You never know.
Or
we'll
the Panthers.
See. Or the Panthers. Exactly. But so they are the teams. Again, they could have the Vikings come back because that could be a divisional game, but I don't know if they give Dublin a divisional game that early. Hell, they could give the Lions. The Lions would be class. They did the Lions. That'd be great. But yeah, so that is hopefully what we're going to see next year. A big thank you also to the NFL, first of all, for supplying us with the press pass. A big thank you to Tinio. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm really sorry, but they were the ones in charge of all the events and the practices and stuff like that, and kept us up to date on everything. So really appreciate them as well for that. Hope to continue working with them in the future too. But lads, there was other football on at the weekend. We won't talk about Thursday night football because the Seahawks tried their best to lose the game, and then they won it in the end. So that's kind of how the story goes with that one. I want to talk a little bit. I want to talk first of all about the Falcons actually, because last week they played your Carolina Panthers, Rain, and I was ready to sort of lose my mind on the show last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it last minute because they pitched a big fat duck egg 0 points. And I was actually going to call for Zach Robinson, their OC, to be fired because I think in the NFL, I know it's the top, but in the NFL to not score any points at all, I feel should be a fireable offense. And then I thought
make it past the 30-yard line. By the way, they did not make it past the 30-yard line on offense. No,
I don't know how he lasted an extra week.
That's tragic.
He was moved. Yeah, he was moved during the week. I saw the report, and I was also going to comment on it as well that he was moved from the sideline to play calling in the booth, which I still don't understand how that's going to be any different. But because you call your play. And then you will line up, but your mic is cut off 15 seconds before the end of the play clock. So it's not as if you wanted to make a change in the boot, you could do it. So I don't get it. But anyway, so I was going to call, but then the Falcons come back and score over 30 points on the lowly Commanders, which Fionn cannot be here to answer for today. And then I think, maybe the Panthers, maybe Dave Canales is finally turning the corner. Bryce Young is finally going to perform. And then they ship forth the burger to the New England Patriots. Rian, talk to me. What's going on?
This is a head scratcher, to be honest. I don't understand what is going on in the NFC South that the Falcons can lose so tragically to the Carolina Panthers. And then everybody within the Carolina Panthers fan base has been on their high horse for a week. And then as soon as the game bloody began against the Patriots, it was over. I mean, we had a very, very good first drive in that game. And for the first couple of drives, we were outplaying the Patriots, but somehow were outscored by the Patriots. So it was 14-6, but the Carolina Panthers had controlled nearly 2/3 of the possession to that point. Just bizarre. Special teams, which has been a real strong point for the Panthers this season, let them down entirely in this one, conceding one punt return and nearly conceding a second one directly afterwards. It's just mind-boggling how the defense can go from being looking elite versus that Atlanta Falcons defense or offense, and they really did look elite versus that Atlanta Falcons offense, to looking completely and utterly incompetent versus what is, let's be honest, not the best Patriots offense the world has ever seen.
Yeah, it's I don't even know what to say about it. They're confusing me. The Panthers are just a confusing team this year. I don't know what to make of them at all. Like you said, like they actually looked legit last week. Like not elite, but they looked legit. And then they just stop like working together. They just look horrible this week. So I don't know what to make of them. I've tried to think of stuff to say, but they're just, I don't know. They just fell apart completely.
You're on mute there, Derek.
Sorry. I guess you could say that though about the whole NFC South, because you obviously we talked about the Panthers. You just mentioned about the Falcons. You know, the Saints are 0-4, where they played the 49ers close. They got killed against the Seahawks, and then they put it up to the Bills and almost had a chance to take the lead late in the fourth quarter against the Bills, barring a dropped pass in the end zone. And then you have the Bucs, where they're 3-1, but they won their first game by 3 points. They won their second game by 1 point. They won their third game by 2 points, and then they end up losing to the Eagles, I think at one point being 24-6 down. And then coming back. So these teams are very confusing. What I thought at the start of the season, which was going to be, the Bucs and then everybody else, has now been just turned into everybody else. There is no team leading the way at the moment.
Well, the Bucs do look head and shoulders above the rest of that dumpster fire, but you're right, they're not as good as I expected them to be coming into the season. They didn't really lose anybody during the free agency that I'm aware of. They kept that offensive core together that should have been able to take leaps and bounds forward this year, particularly being another year under their OC. So it's a bit of a head scratcher. It feels like the AFC South was a few years ago, where it was a whole load of trash who could, on their day, beat out some of the best teams in the league. But it is a strange one for sure.
Yeah, I think the Bucs defense will carry them pretty far. They're not top 5, I don't think, but they're definitely looking real nice, and their rush defense, especially, I think they're allowing a little over 90 yards a game. No, that's not right. Well, they're top 5 anyway in yards allowed per game. So I think they'll be all right. I don't think they're heads and shoulders above anyone else, but maybe their own division they are.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the thing, and I guess it kind of alludes to the bigger look at the NFC. Maybe like the NFC is a lot more open than we thought it was going to be this year, because obviously the 49ers look like they're taking a step back. The Packers in the last 2 weeks have sort of flattered to deceive, despite everyone thinking they were going to go 17-0, sorry. I guess who are the other team? Like the Eagles have had to come back from the dead against the Rams, and then somehow, despite controlling the game against the Bucks, have allowed them to come within a score of them. And it's interesting. And like the Rams are 3-1 at the moment, and they seem to be the sort of more consistent team, most consistent team of the ones that we would expect to be up there in the NFC. But yeah, I guess there's no real front runner in the NFC at the moment. The Lions now are starting to come into a bit of form after their shaky start. I guess you could put the Lions currently as the favorites.
I mean, the Eagles are still
I would put
4-0. Right.
What were you going to say there?
I was just thinking about Rue's point. I think that's correct. Yeah, I'd still have the Lions above them. They just look better. I know they lost one, but especially after last week, they just look like a much more complete unit on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair enough. Let's stay in the NFC, right? And I want to speak about the Giants. New York Giants coming back and starting with the rookie Jackson Dart against the Chargers, beating the Chargers with Jackson Dart. And I guess I know, and look, again, Fionn would love to talk about this if he was here, but are we putting the final nail now into Russell Wilson's career as a starter in the NFL?
Can't see how you don't. Go, Al, you go first.
There's two ways to think about that. Almost certainly yes. But also, the Giants are a trash heap, and almost everyone who leaves them gets better afterwards. Almost.
I don't know. I don't know if
like
Russ
90%
right now.
90% yes, he's done. He's cooked. Retire. I think he's played himself out of the Hall of Fame if ever there was a chance. But like he could go somewhere, land in, the best position possible. Like he wasn't the worst ever. Like he was all right. He was just making some stupid mistakes with really not much, neighbors and then some guys. So like he doesn't have a lot to work with, even if he was playing well. But yeah, I think you're right. I think he's done. I think it's time to just call it. Unless someone throws 20 or 30 million at him.
I don't see a scenario where there is a team that needs Russ unless he hangs around and he tries to become like a Joe Flacco where he's still going from club to club at like age 40. But, I think obviously Russ's biggest asset that he's had for years has been his legs, but like his legs are gone.
Yeah.
And where I guess Al, me and you could tell for the last few years of his career that if it wasn't a big lovely looking moon ball, offense really kind of wasn't relying on him to move the ball. It was relying on him to help get them out of a hole. If the run, the inevitable run on first down and second down came to only a yard each, but I think it's interesting because and you have to take it with a pinch of salt when this person says it, because obviously there's some personal animosity with it, but Richard Sherman talked about Russ, I think, on the Thursday Night Football just gone, where he talked about how Russ's performances with the second half of the season with Pittsburgh, how he went and Denver, and now how he has been benched after 3 games in New York, that he's actively playing his way out of a Hall of Fame, nomination or even like being in the Hall of Fame at all. And is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I didn't see his career as being Hall of Fame worthy to begin with. I get the 2 Super Bowls early in his career were excellent, but the standard of play throughout the entirety of his career. One, beg your pardon.
He
Yeah,
made
so
2.
I mean, like,
he made 2.
Yeah.
And
yeah. That's correct. Yeah. So the 1 Super Bowl coupled with the rest of his play, I don't think he ever was a Super or a Hall of Fame contender. Like, he was a good quarterback, but I wouldn't put him in that elite tier at any stage during his career. For me, what's interesting about this season is the results that you see on the pitch. So they had an excellent game against the Cowboys this season, and I think that's because of the animosity between the Giants and the Cowboys. NFC East, big rivalry game. The guys were up for it. But in games where there isn't that sort of inherited animosity, it seems like Russell Wilson can't get the energy out of his team. And we saw energy again when Jackson Dart came in, because he wears his shirt on his sleeve in a very authentic manner. I think Russell Wilson has kind of created this personality for himself that he thinks a quarterback should be, but it seems very, very inauthentic, even looking from the outside. So I'd imagine that's probably gotten onto his teammates' nerves a little bit, and that's why we're seeing them kind of put in better performances for the likes of Jackson Dart, even if maybe Russell Wilson has a little bit more talent at this stage in his career.
I think it's funny that as well, because, you know, there was a period where Russ was actively trying to get out of Seattle. And the team that kept coming up and the team that he kept wanting to go to was the Giants, because he wanted to go to the New York market. There was rumors that Sierra, his wife, wanted to move back to New York to help her music career as well. And now that he finally has that move, it's lasted 3 games. And it looks like it's already over. But look, on the other side of it, fair play to Jackson Dart. Comes in, first start in the NFL, and leads an 0-3 team to get their first win of the season. There's one image, though, I want to show you, and I believe this is going to be the beginning of Russell Wilson's villain arc in the NFL. Like just look, this was the post game sort of chat huddle that they're having. I don't have the audio with it, but you can just see the look as Jackson Dart is giving his victory speech. A penny for the thoughts going in through Russell Wilson's mind in that moment. You know, it would have been fantastic to know. But look, fair play to the Giants and Jackson Dart for getting the win, their first win of the season, and maybe eases the pressure.
Their first win over the Chargers since 1998.
Jesus. Well, they don't like AFC, NFC.
They don't play them often. So I think
there's a bit of an asterisk.
There's going to be 5 or 6 games in there. Yeah.
I want to get your guys' opinion on before we wrap up. I want you to give me a team each that you feel whose season, depending on what happens now in week 5, is on the verge of collapse. And I'll start with, no, I had 2. Hopefully one of you has picked the other one that I'm not going to pick. But for me, the team whose season's on the verge of collapse is the Baltimore Ravens. They had a tough.
No, I don't think that's a debate at all.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to try and fight me on it. I was going to say, give me a second. Let me prove my point here, Al. Let me prove my point. But no, okay. You're in agreement. That's okay. I like it. Like that we are in the same mindset here on this. But you know, obviously the 1-3 to start the season, the tough start. You know, I think it's a 2-3 week injury layoff for Lamar Jackson. So, who was it that came in for him on the game on Sunday? Do we know?
That's a good
Before
question.
I look at the
Can't
depth
remember.
chart. Cooper Rush. It was Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
Now, I will give a caveat. Their 3 losses have been against the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs. That's, you lose games against those teams. No one is going to look at you differently, And look, the teams that they are expected to win, they beat the Browns very heavily, 41-17. It's not the most difficult schedule going forward. If you're looking at the next few weeks, Texans, Rams, Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns again, Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Bengals again, Patriots, and then they finish up with games against the Packers, and then their second game against the Steelers. The rest of the schedule is not the worst in the world. If they had Lamar fit, I still think, and look, the Texans were a team I considered being on the verge of collapse, but Rain, me and you talked about them already a couple of weeks back. The Texans, I feel like even without Lamar, I think they should beat. The Rams, though, is not a game I think they would beat. A team that they would beat, I should say, without Lamar. They would definitely need Lamar for that if he could come back. But I think if they were to go, what's that then? 2-4? 2-4 is tough. 2-4 is tough to win a division, You could maybe sneak playoffs. It depends on how the rest of the AFC are doing, but or it could be 1-5 if the Texans do spring a surprise against them. But lads, what do you think that the Ravens in a bit of trouble?
I would tend to agree with you. Like you said, the games that they lost, there may be games that they wouldn't be expecting to win 10 times out of 10, but you certainly expect them to kind of come through the first period of the year at least 2-2. Sitting at 1-3 is not a good look if you're looking to be a playoff contender, and realistically, they should be looking to be Super Bowl contenders at this point in the Lamar Jackson era. Like you said yourself, with that injury to Lamar Jackson, I think it's going to be a really, really tough couple of weeks coming out of this one, because he is a really dynamic part of their offense, and they're really going to miss him. So like you said, that game against the Rams could be pivotal. Their defense is obviously quite good, so hopefully they can shut down that partnership between Devontae Adams and Matthew Stafford that's been looking really, really nice this season. So yeah, I tend to agree with you.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add there. That was I was thinking. You just keep going over the points that I was going to make, so I'd just be repeating this. Yeah, I agree.
Right. Well, then Al, tell me, give me a team that you are looking at and thinking, you lose here in week 5, that's your season already done, bub.
I know this is going to sound like because it's in the division, in the NFC West, but it's the 49ers, and it's not because I don't think they don't have talent or anything like that. It's they just can't shake this injury bug. Preseason and every game since, they're losing players, and even their players that are playing are getting banged up. And then you have guys like Trent Williams, who still playing well but showing his age. He's not playing, elite like he was a couple of years ago. And their offensive line is shaky. I think Mac Jones played their best quarterback play of the year so far. They are not healthy enough, and they're only a few more injuries away from like total collapse. Look, you can only say next man up so many times. The starters are starters for a reason, and the bench players are bench players for a reason. Like, they cannot keep this up, and especially now with Nick Bosa out, like it's going to take him a couple of years to get back to 100%. And when he does, he's on the wrong side of 30. I don't see, and like, if they stay the way they are, they're going to keep winning games. But mind you, they just lost to the Jags, so not the best showing ever. But they just can't get healthy, and it's killing them. Like, the past 2 years has been the same story.
Yeah, and it's interesting with the Nick Bosa side of things, because it's the second ACL of his NFL career. I think I saw a stat, and I don't know if it was QB hits or QB hurries or pressures, but I think it was the first game without Nick Bosa was, I think, the first time in definitely the pre-Nick Bosa era that the 49ers failed to register. I think it was a QB hurry or a QB pressure in a game. So they live or die by Nick Bosa and his pass rush. And I agree with you. I think they're one injury away from on the offense or the defense between it being a total, like, wrap up the season, we're done. And that's like if either Christian McCaffrey or Fred Warner goes down.
I was about to say, if Fred Warner goes down, just call it. Call it. You're done.
Yeah. Although I still have a gripe with Fred Warner, because he played on a broken ankle last year, but per NFL rules, they never actually said anything on the injury report about him having a broken ankle. So
but he's elite, so no one's going to say anything.
Yeah, well, look, listen, I just thought you're meant to disclose any injuries your players have. So
I agree. I agree, but elite players get the passes that the rest of them don't.
Anyway, Rian, your thoughts on the 49ers and their season close to being in big trouble?
Yeah, I understand the sentiment behind the idea that their season's in big trouble, but for me, it's tough really to say that a team who, if they lose at the weekend, go 3-2, that's their season over. I think there are other candidates within that division looking a little bit more shaky. Primarily the Cardinals. Their game against the Seahawks, they didn't look very good until the fourth quarter. And then in the Carolina game, they nearly blew that really, really big lead. So I'd be a little bit more worried about the Arizona Cardinals this year than I would be about the 49ers. Now, as you say yourself, when the injuries start to rack up even more, at that point, you can become concerned. But I think we're a few weeks away from that at this stage. So I wouldn't be putting them in the season enders list at this stage of the season. My own pick for the brink of collapse is going to be, so I thought about doing the Texans. The Titans would be a really easy one to pick. Obviously, I
think they already collapsed.
Being bad.
I think,
right,
exactly. I was going to say.
But 0-5 is a really tough place to be as a franchise, and then your head coach starts coming under pressure. It ramps up and ramps up and ramps up. But the team that I'm going to go with is the Denver Broncos. I was expecting them to take a step forward this year, a real big step forward, and maybe challenge for that AFC. What are they in the AFC West this season? But they just haven't looked really as good as I expected them to be. And then if they do lose at the weekend, 2-3, with Sean Payton at the helm, they should be improving year on year at this stage. And it really looks like they've regressed. So if I was a Broncos fan and they do end up going 2-3, I'm going to be a little bit stressed.
Yeah, the Broncos is an interesting show, because I think, we were all hoping that after the success that Bo Nix had last year, I guess kind of a little bit under the radar, especially with the success of Jaden Daniels, that we were expecting maybe a lot more, and with Sean Payton, obviously the offensive guru that people like to call him, that maybe they were going to take a huge step, because that defense was fantastic last season. Hasn't probably hit the heights they have yet. They still can, because I don't think there's no massive injuries that is stopping them from doing that. Maybe it's just a case of still warming up in terms of, maybe they're still just a little slow starters in the season. I look at that, receiving room for the Broncos, and that's where I have my issues with, because, you're looking at, Cortland Sutton obviously is a fantastic wide receiver. I never sort of saw him as wide receiver one. He's getting wide receiver one money at the moment, which I don't agree with it. Troy Franklin is coming off his second year in the league, and they're expecting big things out of him. But, there's a lot of inexperience there that maybe, and look, once you see teams, and I will call out the likes of maybe the Saints, once you know that their seasons are done, Chris Olave may become available, that maybe they can try and get some experienced wide receivers in that room. Look, if the things with AJ Brown doesn't improve, he could be someone that could look to leave as well. So for a team like the Broncos that want to make that next step and want to feel that maybe, especially even this year with the division as open as it is, in terms of, the Chiefs not being as good as everyone expects them to be, there's a chance to win that division. So, they're a few pieces away, I think, maybe from being properly contending. Again, how, like you were saying about, the who was it that Al said? What was the team that Al said again? The Niners.
49ers.
Yes, despite their record and stuff, because injuries is the reason why we're struggling with them. If the same with the Broncos, they're able to go 2-3 this year, I wouldn't, or this week, I wouldn't exactly be worried, but I would be worried if they don't try and invest in that offense to help Bo Nix.
Absolutely, but just going back to the AJ Brown thing, I read recently that it's practically impossible for the Eagles to get rid of him. It wouldn't make sense for them to trade him anywhere with the dead cap hit that they would take. Even if they could get the buying team to cover his entire contract, the dead cap is still going to kill them, so they won't get the value. They might as well just keep him on the roster and take that dead cap hit. Even if he's just getting 2 targets a game, it's still better than trading him elsewhere and not being able to fill that gap.
Well, it doesn't do my fancy football team any favors, him getting 2 targets a game.
No.
Anyway, Al, your thoughts on the Broncos?
I think they're a tough one. Their defense has been really good. Like, not perfect. They've had their moments where they're losing concentration or they're letting something go, but they're really good. And same as I was saying with the Bucs, I think that alone could take them pretty far. Their offense isn't complete crap. They can still move the ball when they need to. So if they can score 15, 20 points a game and limit teams as they have been doing. Now I know previous week it's easy enough to stop Jake Browning. And the Bengals have as they've been struggling, but it's such a hard team to say whether one or 2 losses is going to kill them. But I do agree they can struggle.
Being real, it's a really difficult question to answer. I don't think there's very many teams who would describe their own seasons as over after 5 weeks, regardless of their record. So it is a tough one to answer. It's just that the Broncos stuck out to me as a team that was underperforming, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Does anybody have any issues, or does anyone fear a little bit for, like, say, any teams that sort of did well last year maybe came into this year and not performed as well as they would have liked? So I'm just having a look at the standings here. Yeah, we covered
Texans are obviously the one that stands out amongst
Texans.
the,
I have serious concerns with the Texans, and I covered it there last week. But like their offense just looks broken. Like that game against the Titans, I think it was like 6-0 until the middle of the third quarter, and then they decided to finally pull away. I'm a little. I'm not overly high on the Vikings, even when JJ McCarthy comes back. I think that this might be not a down year, but it's not the year that they think that they can go for the Super Bowl. And maybe internally they believe that too, because they need to give them a year to get ready. One team that is coming up on my radar a little bit, and I know it's going to piss Fiona off, but it's the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
You know,
Jaden Daniels is
the
a
old
massive
man.
loss to that offense. When he's not in there, they look far less dynamic, even though Marcus Mariota can run the football himself. But yeah, Jaden Daniels, they live and die by him on offense. So with him being out, it's a big loss. I don't think they've done a huge amount to improve the roster this year, to be honest. I mean, Deebo Samuel, they brought him in. He hasn't looked outstanding so far. Obviously, he's had his injury concerns in the past. So, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you there. The Commanders do look a little bit shaky at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I was saying earlier, though, this team would be so good 7 years ago.
Yeah.
They'd be going to the Super Bowl 7 years ago.
Yeah, because it's like, talk to me there a little bit about that. Because like you're looking at, you know, if you just look at the roster, like Deebo a couple of years ago, you know, prime Deebo a couple of years ago, a prime Zach Ertz, you know, a Bobby Wagner, a Von Miller, a Marshawn Lattimore, like these guys, if they were just a couple of years ago, if they had them on the depth chart, yeah, absolutely, they probably would be going to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of a worrying stat, to be honest, to have that the main players on your team are that old. It does worry me for the future. They're going to need to invest heavily in the draft, and hopefully they can find a few studs in there to replace those guys, because Zach Ertz is still getting far more targets than he should be in the NFL at the moment, and that's a huge concern.
Yeah, I know they drafted what was his name? Tight end. When did they? Let me just have a look. See, okay, depth chart. Yeah, they drafted Ben Sinnott, actually from Kansas State, there last year in the second round, and there was a lot of hype around him that he could be the next guy to take over from Zach Ertz, but hasn't really progressed as probably they would have liked. I think so far this year, he's only had one target for 7 yards. You know, so
it's tricky with tight ends.
games.
I think we've been blessed in recent years with like Brock Bowers coming into the league and making an instant impact. Sam Laporta obviously making an instant impact. TJ Hawkinson, when he came in, made an instant impact. But prior to those three guys, it really took tight ends, for whatever reason, a few years to acclimatize to the NFL. Maybe it's to get the bulk to where they need to get it to, that sort of thing. So he may end up being a very good tight end for the Washington Commanders, but the way the mindset is at the moment is we want everybody to contribute very, very quickly. So it's all to see in the future.
Yeah, right. I think that's a good place to wrap it up, lads. Actually, that hour has flown in. Thank you very much. Appreciate it as always. Before we go, if you are watching this on YouTube and you haven't already, please like the video. Tell us which team you are looking out for on your season is going to end soon for them watch list. Subscribe to the channel, please, as well, if you haven't already. Follow us on the socials at UnderCenterPod on Instagram and on Twitter. Help us continue to build as we try to progress throughout the NFL season. We appreciate all the interactions that we've had in the past week, especially leading up to the game. It's been absolutely fantastic, and we hope to continue that on for sure. Al, welcome back. This
Thank
is
you
like
very
your
much.
yearly appearance on the show now, so we'll see you again next year for sure.
See you next year.
Rian, I'll see you hopefully next week.
You certainly will.
Excellent stuff. But until then, stay safe and we will see you soon.